Price gouging from COVID, student ebooks costing up to 500% more than in print, call for inquiry into academic publishers as lockdown students unable to access study material online.
Here's a summary of the article.
Librarians at UK universities say students' reading lists for this term are being torn up because of publishers' eye-watering increases to ebook prices, and some students are now reading what is available or affordable, rather than what their tutors think is best for their course. Joanna Anderson, subject librarian at the University of Gloucestershire and one of the authors of the letter, says, publishers are manipulating the market and price gouging from COVID. We are trying to support students during an unprecedented public health crisis and they are making it so much harder. It is a scandal. Examples librarians have given include an education textbook called An Integrated Play-Based Curriculum for Young Children, published by Routledge, offered to libraries for £36.99 in print but for £480 for an ebook that can only be read by one student at a time. Urson reports that publishers introduced price rises for ebooks for libraries at the start of 2020, often alongside changes to licenses that meant instead of numerous students being able to access an online book simultaneously, only one student would be able to read it at a time. Although several publishers offered free access to many ebooks in the first lockdown in March, this was withdrawn in June. Anderson says ebooks costing more than 500% more than print versions are not exceptions, but the prices I have come to expect to see. Paul Iris, Pro-Vice Provost for Library Services at University College London, says he has had to spend an extra £3 million during the pandemic to buy enough ebooks for UCL's 48,000 students, an investment he agrees other institutions may not be able to afford. In spring 2020, we provided free access to ebooks and our digital courseware solutions to more than 65,000 students and supported 500+ instructors to help them transition online in the UK and Europe alone.
This post received a score of 120,000, with an upvote ratio of 93%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Textbook price gouging didn't start with COVID. It just made it easier.
This is why I dropped out of college early. The cost of just the books alone was more than the education itself. I simply could not afford it. I'm glad I went though, it was a learning experience on many levels. Our education system really needs to be redone, top to bottom.
If that what was holding you back, then check out BOK and Ligen. Between those two and the library, you don't need to buy much if any textbooks. This year, I lucked out and got all my textbooks from the library. I guess it all depends on the country and university though. For me, it just depends on the professor and the type of textbooks required.
Worth mentioning to even without Libgen you can just look up textbook name, PDF, and find it. Pirating is super easy.
Just wanted to chime in as a current student. Some of you may say, but it doesn't have underscore edition. Have a chat with your professor and tar. Back when I didn't have certain textbook and was assigned homework from there, I just emailed them about my circumstances and asked for a scan of the problems. I'm willing to bet that a lot of professors would help you out. I tell my students that I don't care if they use an older edition, rent it or share it. I keep a bunch of older editions in my office to lend every term. Textbooks are too expensive and my students are struggling. Edit, autocorrect is drunk and needs to go home.
Textbooks were expensive 30 years ago, and a new version of CALC was released every year. Newsflash, calculus hasn't changed so there's no need for a new edition yearly. That is unless someone didn't want last year's CALC book sold to this year's students, the same scam with a new face.
The academic arm had an explicit policy of revising textbooks every few years specifically to kill the used book market. Textbooks are very expensive to print, they have to be on high-quality paper, the typesetting is often very complex, and they're printed in very low volume compared to mass-market books. They're basically the most expensive books to print. Even charging exactly the same for ebooks as print books results in large jumps in profit because your variable costs are next to nothing.
This shit is why I take to the high seas.
Hoist the colors.
Hang the black flag at the end of the mast. You are a pirate.
Musical notes. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. Musical notes.
Yo ho fiddle dee dee. Being a pirate is all right to be. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.